Okay, let's do that. Okay, yeah, now we're streaming live. Okay, now we're good to go. Now we got it.
Awesome.
I believe that took care of it. Hopefully everybody is joining us and I see us on live. Yay, got it to work.
Awesome.
Hi, everybody. It's Happy Wednesday today, and we were having some technical difficulties. I was having trouble for it to go live, but we're here, we're live, and I'm watching to see people join us. So while we're waiting to join us, there's a couple of items that I kind of wanted to go over first. Mac, if you don't mind waiting. Well, first of all, I want to welcome our guest today. Our special guest is Mac McFarland, who is an educator, realtor member, and who helps us in many ways, but is also a volunteer on our board of directors, and in fact is unopposed in the upcoming election to become the 2021 president-elect. So welcome, Mac.
Thank you very much. That's awesome.
I could have thought I should have done like the Game of Thrones type of a title, you know, give you like all the, you know, Queen of the Andals, and you know, that's sort of kind of what I just did. So, before we get started, though, the couple of things where we're waiting for more people to join is I wanted to talk about the TAR Fall Conference. I saw that you posted a little reminder today on GMER Connect.
Yes.
A little bit earlier, and I know the deadline is, I think, this Friday to register. It's tomorrow. Okay, so tomorrow is the deadline to register.
And it's tomorrow night. And we had a meeting today with professional development at Texas Realtors, and tomorrow at midnight it's over. 11:59 tomorrow night it's over with, and there will not be any late registration. They specifically, Deb Wiedemann, the lady that runs it, specifically said, make sure everybody understands there will not be any late registrations. So if you're not in there tonight, it's sorry.
And that's very important because it is free. I mean, joining and attending is free, and there are CE, you know, courses that you can attend. But there's a lot of information that you get access to. I know that we've pre-registered, and I received notice yesterday in an email. And I forwarded it to the officers and directors, so I'm making the announcement now. I understand that GMER is going to be receiving an award during one of the presentations. So I'm excited to find out exactly what it is. Somebody nominated us, AKA I think our PR committee chair may have done it as a surprise to us, but so some award is going to be announced for GMER, and I'm excited about that. So make sure that you've registered. Again, tomorrow midnight's the deadline, and there's a lot of information and great opportunities for CE. The other thing I wanted to talk about was the nominations from the floor, was the upcoming election. Our annual meeting is set for next month, September the 17th. And we have our officers' positions are all unopposed this year. Been here 4 years is the first time. And so by all, you know, effects and purposes, other than the process that we still have to go, Mac, you will be our 2021 president-elect. We will have Dendia Bai as our treasurer, and Juan de la Garza will continue as our secretary for the association. So, however, we do have directors. There's 3 positions, 6 people running, and some people who were on the general membership meeting live will recall that there were 4 people nominated from the floor. However, due to our bylaws, one of those individuals was, I hate to use the word disqualified because that sounds kind of harsh. It's just, we are, as a board, we're only allowed to have 2 people from each brokerage serve at any given time. And due to the individuals who are already going to be elected, we had to just, you know, disqualify one of those people who was nominated from the floor. So there is just a change on the ballot. So everything, ballots will be mailed next week. You should be receiving them, and we will have an email that will go out to all of membership on Monday in regards to the date of our annual meeting, the dates of the election, the times of the election, who the slate of officers as approved by the board of directors were, who were the individuals nominated from the floor and qualified to continue to the election. All of that information will be going out. Please look for your emails for the information. There will be a requirement to pre-register for the annual meeting in September. It will be via Zoom, and that will be contained in the email, not in the physical copy that we're going to send to people, so that you can click on a link and pre-register for the annual meeting. So wanted to get that out of the way. We're done with that, and more information to come. Just look for emails and post within our social media. So Mac, while we've been in this pandemic, this year we had a pretty large MLS committee to start the year. We had 22 members, which is the maximum amount that we're allowed to have in accordance with our bylaws. But we had a pretty large MLS committee, and the committee has been busy. And you've been busy kind of leading that committee. And some of the work that y'all have done has been very important. So I'd like you to kind of get into a little bit of what that is.
All right, so one of the things we did was we went completely through the MLS rules and regulations. And in fact, the MLS committee this year, absolutely fantastic. If you see somebody from that committee, just tell them thanks. We had 3, May and June, we had 3 special called meetings in addition to our regular one. And we went through the MLS rules and regulations word for word. And most of the changes that were made within the MLS were minor changes, where the MLS, I say minor, but where the MLS rules may say 48 hours, and to fine tune it to go with other things we have, it says 2 business days now, so it's more understandable. Those were some of the basic things. There are some. We changed the listing procedures in there a little bit as far as the properties, describing the properties and et cetera. You can take a look at the MLS rules and see if you have any questions over them. But that's it. The MLS committee's been busy with that, and we've also been taking a look at the MLS lockbox rules and made some changes there. Please keep in mind, some of you may have seen the video that Lee Jinks posted. MLS lockbox rules and MLS rules state that we're supposed to use an approved lockbox. We have 2. We have the Century and we have the Supra. You can use either one of those, and we have MLS lockboxes, Supras in stock at the board office, from what I understand. So those are available, curbside service, from what I understand there too. And so we have that available. If you're using a combo lockbox, and I know in some cases banks require it, they used to with us too. If you're using that, just be aware of the risk that's involved. And that was the video that Lee Jinks had posted. And we asked him to also post it in GMAR Connect so that everybody can see it. Because they're not that hard to break and get into. But I do also understand the banks require those, so we'll work with that. A couple other little things just so we can wrap that part of it up. The MLS committee, at the last meeting, they had 2 things we wanted to work on, or 2 things we wanted to get fixed. One of those was the source for square footage in MLS, and the source for access being showing time. And in both cases, Lee had taken that and ran with it and had that up and improved within 24 hours, had that corrected, if you will, in MLS within about 24 hours working with CoreLogic. So that was good. Those are in there. If you have any questions about those or how they work, please let one of us that's on the committee know about it. This year, the MLS committee has been absolutely phenomenal. I can't tell you how impressed I am with it and how much I enjoy working with them. Some of the things on the lockbox that we wanted to emphasize as well was that we are not supposed to be sharing our lockbox key. And that's one of the issues we come across all the time, not all the time, but often, where an individual shares the key. So I, as an agent, schedule a showing, but I don't have time to go. So I have my assistant, who happens to also be unlicensed or licensed, it doesn't matter. I have them go do the showing. I was the one that had authorization to go in there, not them. And that's an issue according to the rules. We need to make sure that we're accessing it only by those individuals that are authorized to be in the property. And one of the other areas that comes up is where a property is vacant. Just because a property is vacant and it has a lockbox on it does not give you the right to access that property. You make sure you have permission before you go into them. And those are two of the areas that we're also looking at. Any other questions or comments there, Monica, on those?
I was muted. No questions or comments. I will say, so there was a question submitted by Christine Cootie-Mullis, and her question has to do with, can super lock boxes from another association be used? Those lock boxes have to be deprogrammed from that association, and then reprogrammed with ours to Supra. You can contact Lee Patterson at our office, mls@gmar.org, let her know, and she can walk you through that process or exactly what needs to be done. David wants coffee, and I'm sorry, but
Yeah.
I don't even make it for myself. I just don't drink coffee.
We do the big cups.
Yeah.
Don't have to worry about it. There was a couple other things that I wanted to throw in here as well when we talk about the lock boxes, gate codes, any of that stuff getting in to a property or see a property. There's a procedure to go through to do that, and all that information should be in showing time. One of the concerns we have is agents are putting that information in MLS. If you put something in agent remarks, it's only supposed to be for agents, but occasionally, and it's been this way for years from what I understand. I know in 2005, 2006, I had a problem with it myself where an agent printed off the agent's view out of MLS and gave it to an individual and wrote down the combination lockbox on the sheet that he had given it to him. He wrote it down for himself, but at the end of the showing, he just handed them a sheet, said, here's the information on this property in case you need it. And then the individual helped himself and went back into the property later on. So the concern there is when you're putting the information into MLS, it specifically states on Matrix, do not put any codes or any of that stuff in here. Please don't do that because it's going to show up. And if an agent accidentally prints off the wrong sheet, we have it in the wrong hands, then you've just given somebody access to that subdivision or the gates, whatever the code's for, and we don't need to do that.
One thing I wanted to update, Mac, if you don't mind me,
Sure.
is the active keys. The active keys are no longer viable. Supra decided they were no longer going to provide service to active keys. They're antiquated equipment. And when we sent out notices to the individuals who still had active keys, we let you know that you had up until a certain time to turn those back into us. Whether they're antiquated or not, they need to be turned into the GMAR office. I believe that Lee Patterson is, if she hasn't already, is sending out notices to those individuals who have not turned in their active key, so that they understand that there is a fine if you don't turn it in. An email or letter will be going out to those members in regards to the active key and bringing it in to the office. Don't forget to make an appointment to stop by the office and drop those off.
Thanks, ma'am. Appreciate that. One of the other things, speaking of fines, if I could, I'm going to share my screen with you, and hopefully everybody can see this okay as we do this. Let's see. Can you see that, Monica, on your side?
Yes, I can. And I'm going to look on GMAR Connect to make sure that it's showing up there. There's a little bit of a delay sometimes, but well, there's a lot of a delay right now. I believe it should be showing on, and there it is. Yes, it's
Okay.
showing on GMAR Connect. Your screen is being shown.
Awesome. So just to touch base on a couple little things, one of the issues that we have within the board, and when I say this, it's not just us. From what I'm getting from other MLSs, it's a pretty common problem, but we need to clean it up ourselves on our side. And here's one of the things I like to do is, just for example, if I hit pending 180 to 365 days, these are properties that have been pending for over 180 days in MLS. And I know sometimes we have problems with the property closing, but 180 to 365 days is a long time to have a property pending. And if I click on results, it'll actually show the property. And I'm not going to do that because I have mine set up so I can see who the listing agent is and everything else.
180, and if I click on results, it'll
Hold on, let me.
There you go. You all right? So on here, when you're looking at this, if you get a chance to do it, go in and take a look at your company, or take a look at what's going on, and let's try to get this cleaned up as best we can. If I go 365, for example, out to 700, so there's 16 properties. And by the way, this is just residential. This isn't all properties, just residential. So we have 16 properties in our MLS that have been pending for over a year. And again, is it possible? Yeah, maybe, but here's the concern is the MLS feeds out. The MLS feeds out to the state information source, if you will. That's the Texas A&M Real Estate Center. Texas A&M Real Estate Center takes all that information and they put everything together, and they come out with the reports. You've seen Shirley email out reports. You've seen them posted on GMAR Connect, where it shows the absorption rate for McAllen, absorption rate for Edinburgh and Mission and all that. All of those numbers come from our MLS. And if we have a property in there is pending or option, and it's not really valid, it messes those numbers up. And it's not as bad as it used to be by any means, but we still need to clean this up a little bit. So if you get a chance, I'm asking you to please go in and take a look and see, make sure first off that there's none from within your company. And if you know the agent that they belong to, let's see if we can't get those fixed. What is going to happen is when Monica was talking about fines, starting September the 1st, the MLS rules state that you have to change the status of the property, right? And if it's been pending over a year, I'm pretty sure you haven't changed the status. So starting September the 1st, we're going to really start enforcing this and start going out with some fines on it. So we need to make sure that individuals, and I hate doing that. That is not something I'm into, but we need to fix this so we have accurate numbers. One of my complaints years ago, back about 2010 timeframe, was that all the MLSs in the Valley being linked together, we were putting properties in and there wasn't a system to separate them. We're putting properties in all the MLSs and there wasn't a way to separate them. So it looked like we had a 44-month supply of properties. And we don't want that. We want it to be accurate, because if you're an investor, you want to go somewhere where you know you're going to be able to make some money and make things work. And that's a part of our market, especially in South Texas. Any questions or comments on that one, Monica?
Yes. So again, September 1st is, we will be sending out letters with fines to those individuals whose listings have been pending we're going to start with over a year or 6 months and above. So the 27 plus the 16, whatever that number is, 41. I think 43. What is it? We're going to be sending out the fines to all of those individuals. And today is August the 19th. So in effect, you need to go back and check if you have any pending listings, and you can find that very easily when you go to my firm, my listings, right? You have 11 days to fix it. You have 11 days to go in there and fix it. And when Lee goes on September 1st, looking for sending and Shirley to who to send those fines to, that's what we're going to do. And you can fix it now. You have 11 days before the September 1st deadline, and September 1st, they're going to be pulled and they're going to be fined. So just to tag on to that, Mac.
All right, appreciate that. And while we're in MLS, I'd also like to show you just a couple other things that we did correct as well. So we have the information available, and these are fake. This is a fake one. I use it for training purposes only. But if I go to edit the listing, when you input the listing, a couple of areas that we've added in as well. We talked about the square foot source, so now we can use Realist in there if you're using Realist, because that provides that information. And that's another thing. I've seen people post that Hidalgo County's down or Hidalgo CAD's down. I can't get the tax records. You have it available in Realist, and you also have it available on NAR RPR. And both of those get feeds. So if the county's website goes down, they're probably still live with that information. And it may not be up to date to the minute, but it's up to date probably within 15 to 30 minutes in most cases. So that's available. And I want to make sure we touch base on that. The other one is when we talk about the showing information, this is what I was talking about here. You have comments where you have access instructions here, and we added showing time to it. These access instructions do not include gate codes and et cetera. We want to stay away from that so we don't have any problems out there with it. And then contract information, we've added designated supervisor. And if you don't know who it is, you can look it up. It should say that on the sheet now. I'll show you that in a second. But we have designated supervisor with their information, and it's simple, real simple to pull it up. You can plug in their information real quick and click fill. And you do the same thing with the designated broker. So when you're inputting a listing, you should have it there, right? If you're actually doing a showing or an offer or a contract, we now have that down here where it shows up as well. So we have the broker, and we wanted one of the, and I just happened to click on this one by using it. I just clicked on it. The broker's license and the broker, we wanted an actual name in there in case there's any problems or questions. Who do we reach out to? And then the supervisor's name and information. And if you go through these, you'll see that most of them are being completed. What we have asked is if your information has not been updated, please go in and get it updated. If you have a listing from the past, go in and get that updated so that we have that available in there as well. This makes writing a contract as a buyer's agent. It makes writing a contract real easy because I know what names need to go into the contract, what information needs to go in there. I have everything from the brokerage, the broker's name, and the supervisor's name for the contracts. Right. Any questions on that one?
Not specifically on that, Mac. I have a question. How many days do we have to change the status of a property once it's under contract?
Good question. MLS rules. Where is it? It's right here. Additional information right here. So price change, new commitment, any of those items, failure to report the sales or service within 48 hours. Failure to report sales to the service within 48 hours of the change. And that's in your MLS rules. Incorrect listing information, you can go with that one, or you have the failure to report. But the status is supposed to be changed within 48 hours. And those MLS rules are available on our, if I remember right, they're available on the gmar.org site.
Okay.
Anything else there?
There's a question, how many people are not adding who their broker is on the MLS, and but It is something that we just added.
Right.
We just added that feature recently to add the designated broker.
Right.
Because there was a lot of confusion. Some people were adding just the number, they weren't adding the name. So after much discussion, the MLS committee wanted both to be included.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. All right. So I had one other thing I wanted to cover if I could. And that's again with sharing the screen as well. And that is on the clear cooperation policy. This is in nuts and bolts of the clear cooperation policy is if I take a listing, back in the old days, I'd take a listing as I was leaving, I'd stick a sign in the yard. When I stuck that sign in the yard, I have one business day to get it uploaded into MLS because that's marketing, right? So on the clear cooperation policy, when you start marketing a property, when you take a listing and you market it, then it has to be in MLS. So if you post it in Facebook, hey, I just left this house, it's going to be hitting the market soon, that's marketing. That's what some people call it coming soon. That's marketing and needs to be in MLS within one business day. If you are listing a property and the seller does not want it on the MLS for 5 days, just as an example, they don't want it on MLS for 5 days because they're going to do some repairs. There's nothing wrong with that as long as you don't, as far as meeting clear cooperation, as long as you don't market the property and they don't market the property, which means that it basically shouldn't be shown, right? Basically, if you market the property, it needs to be in there. And if you look at the listing agreement, it now has that information on there. If the seller markets the property, you as the broker are responsible for having it in MLS. And it's in the listing agreement that way.
And we'll extend it to say that there are FAQs on nar.realtor that you can find in regards to clear cooperation. I would highly recommend that you go look at that because in all honesty, you can't have anybody market it, whether it be your wife or the owner's stepson or an agent within your office or your child. Like, nobody can market it. Any marketing that is done, you're the listing agent, you're responsible. And so it has to go in the system within one business day of any marketing whatsoever by anyone. So I just want to make sure to say that because, we can say they can't do marketing, but really, and nobody can do marketing.
Right. Absolutely. And one of the questions we have in the chat is about the, or on the Facebook is about the supervisor. And one of the ideas behind this is if you look in Trek's website, for example, you're going to have a broker and there's probably going to be agents underneath them. Some of those agents are going to be designated as a supervisor. If they're running a team, they should be designated as a supervisor. That's Trek's rules, right? In fact, you have 30 days, I believe it is 30 days to actually designate them as a supervisor if they're running a team. And so what's in Trek should match with what's on the information about brokerage services. So for example, if you look at one of our contracts, for example, you'll see it may say that I'm the supervisor. Well, if you go to Trek's website, you'll see on there that I'm designated as a supervisor. And within we should have information about brokerage services. I should show up there. I should show up on the contract as a supervisor. And I should show up on MLS as a supervisor for that particular agent. But if they're running a team, then it's a whole different ballgame because whoever that team lead is the one that's also the supervisor. Hope that makes sense.
Was that June's question?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And if you don't have a supervisor, then obviously the broker is going to be that. And some of the smaller offices are exactly that way.
There's more specific questions about when does something go into contingency, et cetera. I don't know if we want to get into that much information or detail. How do you feel? I mean, because usually we do like 30 minutes. We're at 35 minutes now.
Okay.
And generally
All right.
speaking, we don't get it into, but this is important information. And, you know, we actually have quite a few people, higher than normal amount of people watching us right now. And I figure that that's because this is important to them.
Right, absolutely. This is their lifeblood. MLS, I mean,
Yes.
we need this. That's the other part is we want to make sure that we're all working off the same sheet of music here. We're doing things the right
Yeah.
way. So when we talk about a contract, and I laugh because last night I had such a kick. A lot of times I follow groups, but I don't comment in them because I don't want to get into it with them. There was a group yesterday that was the question that was asked. I just laughed and laughed because I know the person running the group. She's a Texas Realtors instructor, has a really large group. And I know that when she read that, she just fell out of her chair. There was absolutely no way anybody with a license was asking that question. But anyway, so real quick, if I give, let's say Edward, a offer, right? I write up an offer for a buyer and I give it to Edward. We have an offer. If his seller initials, signs, and he messages me, calls me, emails me, says the offer's been accepted, we now have a contract. Nothing else matters. We have a contract, right? And so if there's anything else still pending, then we shouldn't initial, sign, or communicate. But when you tell somebody, okay, we have a contract, then that's the third part. But you have to have initial signatures and communicate that acceptance to have that contract. Without that communication, you don't have one. So if we have something that's pending, let's say a property that is waiting to be sold, let's say they have to sell a property in Houston, for example, before they can buy here, that's a contingent, but we have a contract here contingent on that. But you still have a contract. And in MLS, it still needs to be marked as pending because you are pending on a contract. Hopefully that makes sense. And I know sellers want the property to still be shown sometimes. And that's one of the things we've tossed around in MLS. Should we have a pending, but still pending accepting backups?
Mm-hmm.
Is one of the categories we're looking at trying to put in there. Pending accepting backups would be one of them we might be able to look at.
I think we had decided to do that since last year.
No, I thought we were still getting some clarity on it, but I'll check on that one. You may be right.
I think so.
A few things going on, but that's one of them.
I have a vague memory.
That's one of the, and you don't know how much we appreciate that. That's one of the biggest things about this. The other part of it is, and that's another place where these fines are going to start hitting home, I think, is when an agent calls you and says, I'd like to show the property at 123 A Street. And you go, oh, I'm sorry, that's been on contract for 2 weeks, but it's still showing active in MLS. That's a violation.
Yeah.
That's a violation. And we need to clean some of that up. And the same thing, the last one, if I could, Monica, the last one is when I take a listing, I have a conversation with the seller. And we agree on how things are going to work, right? So when I input that information into MLS, I'm inputting it based on what I have in writing, not what I wish was there, but what I have in writing. That's the listing agreement. I can't change that listing agreement without having an amendment to the listing agreement. I can't just arbitrarily change that. I've used that example in a few of the classes where I've seen an agent actually make changes to the commission because he showed the property and the agent goes, oh, well, I have an agent. So he changed the commission. You don't have the right to do those things. You have a listing agreement that says this is what it's supposed to be. And I tell you that because the other part of that is the price. If the seller and I agree on $200,000 price, that's what we're working from. I put it into MLS as 200,000. I'm now marketing it at that price. If I bring the offer an offer at 200,000 and they say, oh no, I decided I want 250. Is that possible? Yeah, it's possible, but we need to do we need to do our job and make sure we communicate that with them. Because there's a whole lot of issues that could possibly pop up. I'm not an attorney or anything, but if I put something in the MLS, it goes out to realtor.com and all these other places, that's marketing, that's advertising. So are you false advertising? I don't know. It's just one of those things that gets tossed out there once in a while. So please make sure we know what we're doing as we get into this. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask, please. Thanks, Monica.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for joining me today and going over all of this information. It's, you know, we've gone a little longer than we normally would, but a lot of great information that we needed to go over. Absolutely necessary. Some of you that joined us a little bit late, just rehash some of the information I talked about at the beginning. All voting information will be sent out via mail and email. Be looking out for your email. It should go out on Monday, which we will be doing an annual meeting on September the 17th. All that information will be sent out to you. Register for the fall conference. Deadline is tomorrow at midnight. It's free. Please join and participate. And hopefully this gave us some great questions. I know there was another question about a problem with the MLS app, and I don't think we have clarity if that individual was using Go MLS or HomeSnap. HomeSnap is the app that we are using now for our MLS. So just want to make sure that it's the correct app. So I want to thank you again, Mac, for showing up and coming on with me and taking all the questions and addressing them. And I hope that, I guess the other big reminder is September 1st is the deadline when we're going to be sending out fines for pending transactions that have been pending for more than 180 days. So clean it up, people.
Thanks, Monica. Y'all have a great one.
I want to thank everybody. Have a great rest of your Wednesday and rest of your week.
Thanks.
Thank you all.